What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of the Hurricane Watch. I'm your host, Christian Proscia. What a game on Saturday night. First off, if you went to bed when we was down 25 with a quarter and a half left of play, you're not a real fan. So just want to get that one out there. Like I said, what a game. We're going to talk about that. We're talking about that first. But before we do, I would like to introduce my esteemed co host for tonight, Mr. Luke Chaney from Canes 24/7. Y'all know him, y'all love him, does great game recaps, does a lot of recruiting profiles. I just wanted to get up and talk a little bit about the boy before I get him on. After he just aced a test, we're going to talk about it, but we're bringing him on now. Luke, how's it going today, my boy? You're muted. You're still muted.
There we go.
Now I
rolling. What's up, man? Ace is a let's hope, man. I think it might be a little bit of an exaggeration. I think we got by is a better way of putting it.
listen. We all know that Miami course load is a lot better than that and more rigorous than that FAU course load. So,
Oh no, man, you'd be surprised. I don't know about all that.
what class was it for?
So I'm a public relations journalism double major. So it's for the PR side of things, my crisis communications class. It was all right. It went about as well as I studied for. We'll put it that way.
All right, so that means it's 100 because we all know that you were very studious. And then I know you got a busy night today because you got a fantasy basketball draft here in the coming hours. What's the draft strat looking like? Do you have your order picked out yet?
I do not. But I do know that I'm expecting big things this year from Haywood Highsmith, and if he's there at whichever pick I'm at in the first round, he will be selected. It's a very heavy draft. So
Listen, this is going to be the first year of a healthy Zion Williamson, and by that I mean he's playing 12 games. So take that with a grain of salt, my boy. But let's. Nobody's here to talk about our fantasy drafts because if anybody has seen my fantasy football team, I'm currently 1-4 on the year because God forbid anybody on my starting roster could A, stay healthy, or B, put up more than 5 points. So we're going to talk about some Canes football. My friend, what a game on Saturday night. How was that for you being able to pull a little bit of an all-nighter, 2:45 game ends. What was that experience like for you?
Oh man, it was. I mean, I'm just like the fact that it started so late was one thing. Um, Not used at all to a 10:30 kickoff, but man, it was something, man. I was watching with a bunch of friends celebrating a friend's birthday, and definitely midway through the third, it was a very stressed out room for sure. I mean, down 35-10 at one point. But Miami pulled through. The offense pulled through. Defense came up with big time stops. Um, this team is flawed. We know that. But they keep on winning, and especially with how last weekend was in college football with so many top teams going down unexpectedly. Surviving and advancing it does the trick. It's good enough for the issues that this team does have, but we'll take 6-0.
I completely agree with the survive and advance because, like you said, I thought there was about to be a seventh team in the top 11 falling to either an unranked opponent or a lower seed. I was stressing. But let's talk about this game a little. We start out on the right foot. We just pounded the rock the entire first drive, ending with a marquee touchdown. But then Mark Fletcher wasn't getting like crazy touches throughout the majority of the game, despite being really explosive on the first couple of drives, as opposed to a Damian Martinez. Is Do you, as like a Canes insider, do you think that maybe Markey should start to get some of the one reps? Should Dame start to get some or continue the ones? Because obviously we have a deep backfield, but who, in your opinion, is the feature back right now?
It's tough, man. It's tough. I mean, there has been that sentiment going around about how Mark Fletcher should be taking some of those, or should be the starting back as opposed to Damian Martinez, right? Even though as far as workload wise, it's slightly favoring Martinez, but they both receive the ball a fair share. I think for Martinez, this adjustment to Miami is a process. The scheme that he came from at Oregon State is different, just as far as blocking principles and blocking schemes compared to what this Miami scheme is. And Fletcher's run style of, they're both north south backs, but Fletcher is, hey, whole, like we hit it, right? Martinez is a little bit more of a your patient back. You're kind of we'll wait for the blocks to develop, kind of like a Le'Veon Bell type back, right? So that adjustment is very noteworthy, and especially for Fletcher, who already has been working or has been playing under this scheme for over a year now. It's no surprise that he's come out the gates for the first half of the season and been a bit more productive. But we've seen the past couple of weeks with Martinez. I mean, that second half against Virginia Tech, I thought he had a very good second half. Against Kyle, he, even though Fletcher, I would say, outperformed him or was more productive than him, I thought he still played a pretty decent game. And even then with Martinez, I think he offers a bit more than Fletcher does, at least as a receiver coming out of the backfield. So they both offer something unique in their own respect. And I think that if you do think that Fletcher should be the featured back, that's a very fair take. He has been more productive up to this point in the season. But, what Fletcher does, Martinez does offer a good bit to this offense. And I think the more and more he's going to play this season, the better he's going to get. He's a very talented player. He was amazing last year at Oregon State. And it's not like that talent just went away.
And then defensively, there was definitely some issues in the first half defensively. All the text I was getting was Jaden OT go. That was very annoying texts from my Listella Report co-host Robbie, who was an avid Cal fan throughout the evening. Stupid Gators fans, but Jaden Ott definitely posed some issues for Miami. He had receiving wise, he had 3 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown alongside another rushing touchdown. He had a very good performance. But defense was definitely an issue, especially in the secondary in the first half. A lot of, once again, missed tackles carrying over from last week. But as the night got on, they definitely started to force more 3-and-outs and really took what the game gave them as opposed to what game planning gave. What do you think that those first to second half adjustments were like?
I just think this defense calmed down, right? Because like it's even like throughout the first half, throughout the second, of course, throughout the second half, um, it was the chunk plays that was really really biting Miami in the butt, right? I mean, I don't have the stat pulled up, but I think they gave up what 3 or 4 plays of 50 or more yards. I mean, it was just blown coverages that you know Miami was really falling victim to. I mean, there was that long catch to the Cal tight end, forgetting his name. That I think that was the first touchdown. There was the Jay Knott pass for a touchdown, and one of them wasn't even a blown coverage. It was just a simple, third down dump off or third down slip screen.
Yeah,
That the
that was the odd receiving touchdown because it was like fourth and inches. They were gonna tush push it. Mario calls timeout and then boom, slip screen touchdown, and then
yeah.
me
So,
throwing my remote across the room. But please continue.
so it's like I mean, it's those blown coverages. It's those mental miscues that have really you know that Miami's, like I said, been really falling victim to, especially these past couple of weeks. I thought in the second half when the game went on, and I think when fatigue started catching up to both teams, and we saw the Miami defensive line really start to get after it, make things hard for Mendoza. Really buckled down for the most part on Cal's rushing attack, and we heard a lot coming into this week about what Jaden Thomas, what Jaden Ott, were what they had the potential of bringing in that ground game, and Miami bottled them up for the large majority of the game, or for pretty much the entire game. So I do have some questions about this defense, especially the secondary, which we've talked about the entire season. Just from a talent perspective, the secondary is not where I think it's not the level where some of the other positions are at. Just from speaking talent, speaking depth wise, which is why they've placed such a large emphasis on it in the 2025 recruiting class. Um, and then the missed tackling again was an issue, not as big of an issue as it was against Virginia Tech, but that's something that this defense is going to continue to have to clean up, especially during their bye week in preparation for a Louisville team, which could argue is the best offense that they've played up to this point, right? Very, very solid offense. Jeff Brom is a fantastic offensive mind. So I think this bye week is coming at a good time for this defense, especially.
And then I do want to bring up the bye week, but fourth quarter magic. Anybody in South Florida knows the only place where people get even more alive after midnight is down in Miami. That definitely brought itself to Berkeley, where for the last quarter and a half, everything was just Miami. Outscoring 29, there we go, 29-3 in basically a quarter and a half. Damian Martinez rushing touchdown. X had a day, but Cam Ward totaled 277 yards of total offense, just himself, not even including our running backs, but 277 yards of total offense in a quarter. Cam Ward is special, man. Like, this dude is legit, and he is making some plays look effortless. But as far as the first half goes, there was definitely some question marks. Over the past 2 weeks, have you started to get the feeling of Cam Ward is an actual human? And then, like, because everybody, especially after the Florida game, and then after the murderings of FAMU and Ball State, and then the USF game, it was Cam Ward is the clear cut Heisman favorite. Um, great, good game against VT. Great second half against Cal. But
Mhm.
is Cam Ward still, in your opinion, the clear cut Heisman?
Ooh.
Because we got some dogs out at Boise State, Colorado.
We do have some dogs. I've always held the belief that if Colorado wins 9 more games, like it's going to be Travis Hunter's award to lose. Which I mean, hey, the way Prime has them playing right now, I think that could definitely happen. If I were to build like a Heisman power rankings right now, I'd probably have. Ooh, man, that's tough.
I think we have the same three, but who's your fourth?
Yes. So wait. So your three is, I'm guessing, Hunter, Genty, and then Ward, or some order of that.
Yes.
Okay. Man, I mean, because like the fourth, I mean, it would have been a Jalen Milrow,
Yeah.
but I might still put him there, honestly. Um, I mean, just because he has still had a very good season and he wasn't bad against Vanderbilt.
I'm a crazy son of a gun because I know who my fourth is.
Is it niche?
No. Or, yeah, it's a little bit niche.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Jeremiah Smith is my fourth Heisman finalist.
That's niche. That's pretty niche. I don't hate it, but that's niche.
Dude, he's having one of the better wide receiver seasons, and he's just a kid, man. Like, I've got JJ still, but that's also a little bit of a homer pick because JJ's from our area.
Now, would you throw in? I mean, if we're talking wide receivers, because a name that popped up for me was Trey Harris.
Yeah,
But I mean, you know, I feel pretty good still about having Milrow at four, but I think at least four now. There's that gap now from three and
there's
beyond.
mhm.
Uh, part of me is if not for Cam Ward, part of me is rooting for Genty. I would love to see just a non
a
P4,
G5, a G4 or a G5 player win it.
not only a G5 player, but a G5 running back is crazy. You know, we'll see. I mean, he's been the best player in college football season, arguably. He's
Agreed.
remarkable.
Agreed. Right now, my favorite is Genty, then Cam Ward. But so back to Miami.
Mhm.
Um, big win going into the bye week this week. Obviously, thank God for the IPF because we have a little friend that's going to be hitting the West Coast in the next couple hours. Um, but and so we get to avoid the weather. But what will be, in your opinion, if you are Coach Cristobal and his staff, what are the biggest sort of adjustments we need to make going into the Louisville game, the Florida State game, and beyond?
Yeah. Just like adjustments from the first six, like things to rectify moving forward.
Yeah.
One thing that we definitely saw them do, which I expect Miami to continue to try to do throughout the remainder of the season, is establish the run game early. Right? I mean, we saw that in the first drive. They were punishing Cal with the run game, and I think they could have continued to do that if they didn't fall behind by 25 in the third quarter. I mean, that obviously shifts up your offensive attack. But I think just the continued use of the run game, the continued use of Damian Martinez, Mark Fletcher, to alleviate some of that pressure off Cam Ward. Uh, I mean, Cam Ward is, of course, he's incredible. He's the best quarterback Miami's had since I don't know when, right? He can do things that no other quarterback in college football can do, but at the same time, relying on him to be absolutely incredible every game is a recipe that I'm not sure will always work, right? So I think Miami should definitely, and it's something that's determined by how many defenders in the box and just how the defense chooses to defend this Miami offense. But I think that the continued establishment of the run is something that will be very big for them moving forward. Um, Man, then defensively, just cleaning up what you can clean up, right? We spoke about it a bit already. The tackling that has to improve. The blown coverages in the secondary, that can happen, right? I mean, I think we will see the secondary be exploited a bit at times throughout the remainder of the season, just because, as I already said, it's a unit that is not the strongest on the team, right? Um, so just kind of cleaning up the self-inflicted mistakes will be huge for this defense moving forward, and yeah, and then of course, lastly, just health, right? Jalen, I mean, this bye week's coming at a great time. Getting Jalen Rivers back, fingers crossed for him. I think will be huge for Miami's offensive line. I mean, you see improvements with Markel Bell week to week. He's starting to, get used to the college speed, get used to all that. But Jalen Rivers is a 5-year starter, right? So just implementing him back in the lineup will do so much for your pass protection, and then of course your run game as well. So I'd highlight those, I guess, three things.
And then defensively, front seven got a lot stronger going into the Cal game with the return of Ruben Bain. Being able to have Ruben Bain, Wesley Bissant, Tyler Barron, and so many other edge rushers galore for Miami. Um, but during that first half, it seemed like none of them were really getting active, and that's something that I spoke with a little bit with Corey on his show. Make sure you guys sub to Chalupa Batman and follow him on Twitter. I'm gonna give him a shout out really quick. He'll probably quote tweet this and turn it into a GIF. He's pretty good with those. But something that we all spoke about was, despite having the guys, they weren't getting into the backfield. But then in the second half, it was just three and outs, three and outs, three and outs, not really giving up points. Um, as far as those guys go, do you think that it was an adjustment being able to have Ruben Bain back in the mix after not having him for almost what felt like forever, but it was really just a little bit over a month?
I think so. I think just not only just for Ruben, but for the team itself or for the line itself, just kind of acclimating him back to the rotation is definitely an adjustment. I mean, you also have to remember that you know Bain and some of those other new D linemen like Barrow and Barron, they've only played, or leading into the Cal game, they only played what, a quarter or two together. I mean, Bane got hurt in the first half of that Florida game, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
The second half, I can't remember. But just the adjustment to playing with those guys in live game action, something that takes a bit of time, even though it's not the same type of adjustment that you know we see with like a new quarterback entering the game or a new receiver or whatnot. But it's still an adjustment of sorts. Playing adjacent to a new player for the entirety of the game, and then just for Bane himself, I mean, he's tremendous. He's Miami's best defender, but after not playing for what, over a month, um, definitely takes a bit to get used to game action once again. But we saw in the second half. I mean, Miami's defensive line, their front seven, really started to pressure Mendoza. Really started to you know take advantage of sorts. What is not a great Cal offensive line when it comes to pass protection, and I am just excited to see what this defensive line and what this front seven is going to continue to do when it comes to rushing after this bye week. They're more used to playing with each other now. They've already had that game act. They've already had that first game together under their belt. Because I mean, if that D line and if this front seven can rush the passer at an elite level, that is going to alleviate so much else about this defense, especially the secondary, which we spoke about is not exactly the strength of this team.
Now I want to switch things over to some of our younger guys. Isaiah Horton has really stepped into that wide receiver two role really since the USF game. I believe he scored his first career touchdown against USF. Should have had two. That definitely he should have gotten in on that second one.
Mhm.
Because I was sitting right there. He got in. Sorry guys. Horns down as always. But Zay Horton has really stepped into that receiver two spot. Could we talk a little bit about how he's gotten adjusted to really being into the foreground?
Yeah, man, he has been that breakout player on offense, right? I mean, with Colby Young transferring to Georgia this offseason, he definitely a vacancy was there in that Miami receiver room, as far as just having like a bigger bodied X, right? Because that's what Young was. He was your jump ball guy, your 6'4", 6'5" possession guy, um, someone who you can turn to in those instances, right? And Horton has shown flashes. He did show flashes in his first, especially last year, in that A&M game in particular. But he was really called upon to play a bigger role this year, and it seemed like the plan coming into the year was like, yeah, he's going to come in and be your wide receiver four, more than likely behind George and Brown. But what he's done so far is, I mean, he's established himself as Miami's most consistent outside wide receiver, right? I mean, just so consistent with his hands, his ability to high point passes. Has flashed a little bit after the cat with his after the catch ability, which is very noteworthy for someone of his 6'3", 6'4" stature. He's just such a fluid receiver at his size. Not trying to compare the two, but he's more fluid than someone like a Colby Young was, and you know he's really not just lived up to the hype, but exceeded the hype, and has brought a very, very much element to Miami's offense, and just a terrific and reliable receiver for Ward to turn to when his first option most of or a lot of the times Restrepo isn't, we'll say, available. Horton's been fantastic, man.
Yeah, and good thing we brought up X because that's my last current guy talk. I want to talk about the legend of Xavier Restrepo. Fourth after the win over Cal, fourth all time in receptions for Miami, 163. behind Stacey Coley, Reggie Wayne, and Mike Harley. And then as far as career receiving yards, he's also fourth all time with 2302 behind Michael Irvin, Reggie Wayne, and Santana Moss. And has the, after the Cal game, has the most 100-yard games in Canes history. This dude is good and he's in some elite company. Can we talk about what throughout his career has made X so great? And I saw something on Twitter that I agree with. Should X be in the Ring of Honor before he even gets a diploma?
Wow. Um, what more can you say about him, man? I mean, he's just gotten significantly better, it seems, every year of his college career. Um, just from an unheralded 3-star prospect, I believe, on, I don't want to say every recruiting service. I think one of them had him as a 4-star. Um, didn't have a ton of, those national powerhouse P4 offers. Um, a bit underrated as a recruit, we'll say. And just the work that he's put in throughout his 5-year college career, especially, and just the productivity he's had and the big moments he shined in, especially in these past 2 seasons. It's, I mean, he's just such a good story, right? And, I think this year, or at least coming into this year, was the first where he's had like real hype or a lot of hype, right? Because I mean, he was looked at as the primary option heading into last year as well, but no one really regarded him as a national household name. But they did this year, and he's exceeded those expectations, man. I mean, I think over the course of a 12-game season, he's on pace for around 1,200 yards, somewhere in that ballpark. Um, he saved the team against Virginia Tech with that fourth down catch. Um,
And multiple saves
multiple,
against Cal.
yes, multiple saves against Cal. So many big time plays, including that 70-yard reception at the end. He's just so reliable with his hands, and I mean he's going to be a tough player for Miami's offense to lose. Just such a great, not only a player, but as just a locker room guy, as a veteran leader. Um, what more can you say about him? He's remarkable.
I completely agree. I want to switch things over to the hoops recruiting scene because we have a big week in the next couple or in the coming hours. You guys are going to see an article on Bleacher Brothers and New Era Prep from me. I'm sure Luke's already written a bunch of articles with 24/7, but the Boozer twins, Cameron and Caden Boozer, and Ben Ahmed are
Mm.
all expected to announce their verbal commitments to or on Thursday morning. The Boozer twins are between Miami and Duke. We've heard that for years. And Ben Ahmed is between, I believe, Miami, Cincinnati, and Xavier, right? That sounds right.
I believe so. Yes.
But we've got three 4 stars about to announce their commitments. Let's crystal ball it a little, unbiased, only talking facts. Do we think those guys end up a Hurricane by Thursday night?
Okay. I'll give a prediction for the Ben Ahmed one. I'm not going to give a prediction for the Booster Twins
All right.
because that is last time I checked in with that. Very tight knit, very 50-50 situation as of last week. Gonna check back in tomorrow and kind of dig a little more, see what else is there. With that,
Tell them to respond to my DM, please.
that's I'll let him know. Oh, no, I'm kidding. No, but dude, like if I were to make a gut prediction, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just because like Miami hasn't hit on those top end South Florida guys like Scotty Barnes in the past, Vernon Carey. Um, I'm forgetting some others as well. It's been a while. I mean, I think Dewan Huel was the last big time, South Florida guy that they've been able to get. Marcus Allen, speaking more recently, right? I don't know. I don't know. Like they've done an amazing job in this recruitment, but recruiting head to head against Duke, where their dad played, is tough, man. It's really tough. So I'm gonna leave that alone. I think Miami's put themselves in as good of a spot as they could possibly be in, but at the same time, we'll see. Right, like this is a tough recruitment for them to win. Um, before Ben Ahmed or about Ben Ahmed, um, if I were to place a prediction, gonna check in again tomorrow on him, but I would slightly favor the Canes. Got him on campus this weekend. Um, all signs seem to be pointing pretty well on that. I haven't checked in um, since the end of the visit, but getting that last visit for Miami is crucial. He's a player that Miami has or offered, I think, in mid August. I want to say August 17th. So a recent offer of sorts. Just a bigger bodied center, 6'9", 300 pounds. Someone who plays pretty well in the low post. Um, as a defender, he's going to be your classic drop big. Um, you know, we'll see how he develops body wise. Is he going to keep his weight of 300 pounds? Which, I mean, just speaking, it's a lot. It's pretty big for even for a center, especially one who's not super tall, 6'9". But he's able to use his size to his advantage, right? So we'll see, if he ends up at Hurricane or wherever he ends up, how his body will change at the collegiate level. But he's a top 100 player, very talented center, double threat, very good rebounder as well. Terrific player for Miami if he does end up going to Miami, but just for Cincinnati or for Xavier, I think he's going to be a pretty solid collegiate player.
I definitely agree. I'm going to be the biased one. They're going to be Hurricanes by Friday morning. So we're speaking that one into existence. But Luke, I know you have to once again draft a stellar fantasy basketball team in the coming moments. But before you go, something that I like to do is I want you to plug yourself with all the viewers. Where can every beautiful viewer of the Hurricane Watch find more of the amazing Luke Chaney?
Oh man, you're hyping me up too much and making me blush. Yeah, I would say shoot me a follow on Twitter at Luke Chaney 247. Check out the work that I do about the Hurricanes at Inside the U. Contribute to their site, and I'm the publisher for the FAU 247 site at Alice 247. There you go. Also, check out the work that some of the great staff at the Miami Hurricanes do. I'm the editor for the sports section, sports student journalism. Check out what we do at themiamihurricane.com. Really cool work is done by that staff on a weekly basis. So I want to give them a huge shout out. Shout out student journalism, shout out student media. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, Christian. Appreciate you, man.
Of course, my boy. I know you're going to be on this show again, probably within the coming weeks, because you, me and Zoo, it seems, are just the travel buddies. We'll be on the road for more live coverage. But Luke, thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna let you hop off now, my boy. Have a good one.
See you, man.
That was Luke Chaney from Canes and Owls 24/7, everybody. Make sure that you're following him on socials because he's pretty dang good at what he does and deserves all the credit in the world. Uh, one of my first real friends as far as both the FAU and the Miami media side, because, like he said, he does some work with FAU. One of the first people I felt comfortable talking to in a press conference because Robbie is weird. That one took me a while to talk to Robbie. But speaking of Robbie, we are going to end this episode of the Hurricane Watch a little bit early tonight because I have to hop on Robbie's Listella report tonight. So while y'all are doing nothing, because I know all y'all don't got school, most of y'all don't got work in the next couple days, tune into the Listella report. I want everybody to spam the chat saying Christian is the greatest thing since sliced bread in that show. And as always, or for those that are just joining in, myself and Luke, we spoke about the Miami Cal game on Saturday night, what we liked, what we didn't like, what can be adjusted during the bye week. Then we talked a little bit basketball recruiting because we got some guys that may be Hurricanes by Thursday night, Friday morning. So make sure you are spamming Caden and Cameron Boozer alongside Ben Ahmed on their Twitter and Instagram and social media feeds, telling them where to go. But for New Era Prep and Bleacher Brothers, I'm Christian Proscia. Have a great night. See you on the LaStella Report.